Yeah, that's right. We're back. Mike Wood, Jonathan Keaton, two hosts, one podcast. Let's get it started. We're back with 1497 podcast, baby. I'm your host, Jonathan Keaton, and right beside me is the Mr. Michael Wood, Mr. America himself. Lakers got a good win the other day. How you feeling, Mike?
I'm feeling good. Man, Braun got it done, but obviously he played a little side. Anthony Davis, who put on a show along with Dennis Schroeder. So Lakers look good. Chris Paul's hurt. Lakers in 5.
See, we'll get to that in a little bit because
Yeah.
I disagree, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's start off the show with some shocking news. Shocking to me. You draft Kyle Pitts in the draft. I'm talking about the Atlanta Falcons. Us as fans, we're thinking, okay, well, the Falcons are going to be good offensively. Matt Ryan's always consistent. He always has 4,000-yard pass seasons. Julio Jones says, I want out. What do you think about that before we dive deep into it?
I think it started with the Super Bowl. You lose that Super Bowl, Julio has to be thinking through his head, I don't know if I'm going to get this chance again. And it proves the team has been bad since then, really. And I mean, he's out of all the wide receivers who have played this game, any player who has been a pass catcher in this game, Julio Jones averages his reception yard per game is more than anyone who's ever played. So obviously, you put him in the conversation with some of the best. Definitely one or two of our lifetime, up with Calvin Johnson. And that just says a lot about the organization of the Falcons and a little bit about Matt Ryan, too. I mean, Matt Ryan, he's always been able to be consistent, like you said, but Super Bowl is what he's seeking, and he couldn't get it done in the Super Bowl against the Patriots when they were up 28-3. And Julio wants to go somewhere at this latter stage of his career and try and get one of those.
Yeah, and that's like the trend now for all sports. It's like, well, I'm getting towards the tail end of my career. I want to go to a team so I know that I can win that championship and hold that trophy up at the end of the day. And Julio, like you said, Julio kind of knew after that my team wasn't going to be better, but I'm just going to keep on rocking with it because Atlanta for life. And the biggest thing that holds Atlanta back, because to me, their offense is easily a top 5, top 10 offense in the NFL based off of what Matt Ryan does and Julio Jones does. And when Julio Jones is off the field, Calvin Ridley, and all the notable backups make names for themselves too. So that also says another thing about Matt Ryan. It's just that defense it's just terrible. I'm sorry to say it. It's just terrible.
It's not good.
Secondary was the second worst secondary in the league. Like, it's good you got Kyle Pitts. Like, cool, you got a nice little Ferrari, but you got no insurance for it. There's no, you got to get a defense for that. So I don't blame Julio from wanting out. And this brings me to my next question. Where do you see Julio Jones going?
To the AFC. If the Falcons trade him, they trade him to the NFC. That's most teams don't do that with guys like that. You saw, I mean, I know he was going there regardless, but the Patriots traded Gronk to the Bucks, but I don't see him going anywhere in the NFC. I've heard the Titans, there was something that came out, the 4 trade offers that they have. It was the Titans, the Ravens, Patriots, and then there was one more. But I would think it would be somewhere like the Patriots or the Titans.
For me, I kind of crossed off Tennessee on my list. The reason why I crossed off Tennessee is because Julio Jones is not like a receiver. Like, he's a big name wide receiver. He's obviously your wide receiver one. And having a wide receiver like that on your team, you're going to have to change your game plan a little bit, probably more than what you're working with now.
Yeah.
Ever since Derrick Henry's been in the league, they've been in the top 3 for run pass percentage or run play percentage. So getting Julio Jones there with Derrick Henry and AJ Brown, like, that might be nice, but I don't think Derrick Henry is going to like the load going off of him less and less and less. And like Tennessee, they're rocking with their run game. I can see him in New England. I really can, because Cam, this is his make it or break it year. And obviously, I don't think he's not going to be MVP Cam that we saw with the Carolina Panthers, but he's obviously going to get better. And Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft, the whole Patriots organization's goal is to get as much talent for Cam Newton as much as possible. So
Yeah.
I can see the Patriots making a trade for Julio.
I agree. I mean, I'm going to go back to Julio and the draft. I think you can let me know if you think I'm wrong here, but I think if they drafted a quarterback, because that was what most of the mock draft said, if they drafted a quarterback or like they needed insurance, their defense is horrible.
Right.
They draft a guy like Micah Parsons or one of the two corners, Patrick Surtain, or the other guy, Caleb Farley, J.C. Horn. You draft any of those guys, a defensive guy or a quarterback, I think it's a different situation. I think Julio really believes that Matt Ryan might be holding him back.
I agree. I agree to disagree. And here's the reason why I say that. Because you also gotta think Julio's catching all these passes and getting all these receiving yards and being a consistent receiver, a consistent top 5 receiver every year when he's healthy. Matt Ryan's doing that, getting him the ball. He's airing it out.
True.
Julio's catching those balls. So if you saw pass yards of Matt Ryan decline, you're going to see Julio Jones receiving yards decline too. I think, like what we were talking about earlier, if they would have drafted a guy like Micah Parsons, J.C. Horn, Caleb Farley, Patrick Surtain, I think Julio would be like, okay, the Falcons, they're getting me defense. On offense, me, Matt, Calvin, whoever else is on that offense, we're going to be straight. But our defense is going to get better and better and start developing. So then when we're in those key situations where I'm not on the field, then we'll be able to win games. It's the same situation like Houston. Like Deshaun Watson, he had the Steph Curry effect. Here is why I say he had the Steph Curry effect. He, on his offense, was able to keep them in every single game, almost every single game this year. But on the defensive side, the opposing offense that they're playing would just steamroll them, absolutely steamroll them. And Deshaun Watson can't play both sides of the ball. But on offense, he was able to keep them within games. So I think if they would have went a defensive guy, Julio would be staying put. But they went Kyle Pitts, and Julio might go to
Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts might be the best player in the draft, but for the Falcons, I'm not sure you wanted to go best player available at the 4th pick. That's best player available is normally a later in the draft. At 4, you got to know what you're doing. And I agree. I think defense would have been much more important to the Falcons than Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, like it shocked me, but at the same time, it's like, well, it's Atlanta. They're known to choke.
Yeah, they don't really come through all the time.
Exactly. Now it's time for basketball. It's time for the National Basketball Association. It's time to talk about the NBA. Yeah, I just said NBA 3 times because I'm excited. There's a lot of stuff going on. Makes me, especially at MSG, Madison Square Garden, baby, it's making me feel like it's the 90s. And I'm loving that because I don't know if you guys know, but I love me some 90s basketball. It's a bunch of physicality, bunch of trash talking, bunch of bad, good stuff going on for the league. But we're talking about what playoff team is under the most pressure. Mike, start us off hot.
Well, I got, as Skip Bayless calls them, the team in the basement of Staples Center, and that's the Clippers. The reason why, all this talk, Kawhi released a commercial. He's the new king of LA. And of course, LeBron proved that he's still the king of the NBA. But Kawhi, he does have something to prove. He's a 2-time finals MVP, but at the end of this season, he has a player option. So if they lose in the first round of the Mavericks, you really think Kawhi's going to come back with this squad? I don't think so. I think they at least have to make it out of the first round to keep. I don't think they're under a ton of pressure to win a championship, but at least get to the conference finals or something. Team with the most pressure to win the finals. It's tough because I would say the Lakers, but they're the 7 seed, so it's not like you really expect it. LeBron and AD were both hurt, so I said the Nets have the most pressure to win the title. But the most pressure at this point would be the Clippers to get out of the first round.
For me, I got three teams. Two of them are playing each other tonight. And one of my teams is Los Angeles Clippers. I'm thinking Kawhi goes from Toronto. First of all, I'm thinking, where's Kawhi going? Kawhi decides to go to LA. He's from LA. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. Goes to the Clippers. Paul George comes. So I'm like, okay, pandemic P, playoff P. He's going to go crazy. Then you get Doc Rivers. Okay. I'm happy. The Clippers are actually going to be good. They're going to be the Lob City Clippers without the Lob City. They're going to be relevant. They're going to be successful. Since PG and Kawhi came to LA in the 2018-2019 season, lost in the first round to the Warriors in 6. Then last year, blew a 3-1 lead to the Denver Nuggets. And right now, they're not in a good position, right? They're not in a good position at all right now because of how Luka's playing, KP, because remember I was talking about KP has to play good for them to succeed. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But they got Rondo too. And Rondo was a huge part, a monumental part for the Los Angeles Lakers championship run last year. So they got all these pieces just to be down 2-0 right now. Tyronn Lue might be packing his bags after this. He might go from LA to Detroit. And for Tyronn Lue, I'd cry because who wants to go from Los Angeles to Detroit?
Before you get into your other two teams, I just got to say, Tyronn Lue, I never thought he was that good of a coach. It's not that hard to coach the best player in the world and then a top 10 player in Kyrie. So I don't think he needed to do a ton with LeBron and those Cavs because you saw they kind of stunk when they lost all their all-stars. And then the Clippers, they haven't been bad this year, but they haven't been the defensive team we expected them to be. They're good at three-point shooting, though, which is surprising. But I think this is Ty Lue. You said you think he's going to go somewhere else. I don't know if he'll be a head coach again if he loses in the first round with this team.
Yeah, I think Tyronn Lue would be a good coach somewhere else, but just the way that the Clippers are playing and like Paul George has his narrative, especially when he came to the Clippers, I would say Oklahoma City too. I would go back to say Oklahoma City. He's a great regular season player. And when it comes to the playoffs, he just completely drops off. And we've seen Paul George play significantly well in his Indiana Pacer playoff days when they were going back and forth with your boy LeBron and the Miami Heat. But now it's just like Paul George, are you under my table or are you in my house?
Yeah.
Like, where
Can't
are
find
you,
him anywhere.
Paul George?
Yeah.
My other team, because that's enough about the Clippers. Another team that I have that is under the most pressure is the Miami Heat. The reason I say this is the reasons I'm about to state right now. Miami Heat, only 3 series have gone 7 games after a team has taken a 3-0 lead. Only seven. Jimmy Butler, because I also said Jimmy Butler is the heart and soul of the Miami Heat and the heartbeat of the Miami Heat. So if he's not functioning, that heart's not functioning at all. That heart is close to destroying and just dying. That whole body's just going to not function. So if Jimmy Butler's not functioning, the whole Miami Heat is just not functioning at all. So Jimmy has to play significantly better for his team to succeed because they feed off of that energy. They feed off of Jimmy Butler's energy. And if Dwayne Desmond is your leading scorer in game 2, Reggie Miller said this, is your leading scorer in game 2, you truly have a problem. This is a huge game for the Miami Heat, and they need to win this game to stay in the series. I'm pretty sure that Miami crowd is going to be packed because it's Florida. They need to win this game. They really do.
Yeah, I agree. The Heat, they need to win the game, but I don't know if they're under a ton of pressure. Just because I said this before, I think the winner of this series is coming out of the East. And I think the Bucks look pretty good. I mean, the Nets obviously look great. They're beating down on the Celtics, but I think the Bucks look pretty good because the Heat aren't a bad team. They're not a pushover.
Mhm.
But they were just in the NBA Finals, and I don't think anyone really expects them to go back there. So if they were to do it again, that would be more of a surprise than it would be expected.
No, yeah, I definitely I could agree. I could agree with that to some sense. Like it would be very shocking if the Miami Heat do go back to the NBA Finals with the amount of talent that's in the Eastern Conference. I know that's
Yeah,
a rare phrase to say because the Eastern Conference just been like the attic. Like it's dirty. No one wants to go there and no one wants to be bothered with the Eastern Conference. But like now it's like the Eastern Conference is popping back up and it's actually looking really, really good. The reason why I say they're under the most pressure right now, because when you look at an NBA Finals team and you look at a team that made it to the NBA Finals, your your whole persona on that team and how you look at that team is going to be like, well, Miami Heat, they're not going to go to the finals, but they're definitely going to make a deep run. For them to be down like this right now, it kind of like as a fan and as like people who analyze the game of basketball, it kind of puts them in that spotlight of pressure because like, wait a minute, they beat the Bucks with ease. They ran through these teams, got to the NBA Finals, even though they lost in six, but they still made it. They should be kind of doing the same thing
yeah.
because they got better. So that's why I throw them in there. My other team that I throw in there is the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks, last time they were up 3-0 in the series was 2018-2019 against the Detroit Pistons. And they completely flipped the switch from game one to game two. Game two, shot lights out, shot 10 for 15 from the arc in the first quarter. That was a franchise record for them. 22 made threes, 22 made threes, set a record for most three-pointers made in a playoff game. And the Bucks, like I said early, like on a couple episodes ago, the Milwaukee Bucks have something to prove because everyone thinks that they're a great regular season team and they're not a great playoff team. So for them and the Heat are two important games.
I completely. That's one of the best series. If the Heat are able to take one now and make it 2-1, that's I could definitely see it going to 7. But obviously, if the Bucks win, that's over. Still might end up going to 7 just because you got a bunch of dogs on the Heat. But if the Bucks not steal, but if they take the game 3 in Miami, I don't see how the Heat have any chance.
Yeah, I completely agree. So both of them, pretty big games. It's gonna be a good game tonight. Most intriguing series right now. I know you brought up the Milwaukee Bucks and the Miami Heat. So go ahead, take your stride, Mike.
See,
Talk.
I, I would say, right, it's the Milwaukee Bucks and the Miami Heat. That would only be if game 3 goes the Miami Heat's way. If the Bucks win it, I can't say that. So the most intriguing series as of right now, it's tied up 1-1, and it would be in between the Blazers and the Nuggets. Because I mean, you got Dame Lillard, just playing like Dame Lillard, and then you got Jokic, the MVP. You got two guys going at it. It's really a one-on-one. I think the Blazers are a better team, but it's fun to watch Jokic kind of give everyone buckets out there, supported by Michael Porter Jr. And the winner of this plays the Lakers or the Suns. So that's winner of this has a tough road whether they play the Lakers or the Suns after. So
Yeah.
I think this series is most likely going 7. I picked it in 5, but after watching the Nuggets win game 2, I don't think the Blazers are going to be able to win the next 3, but it's going to be a good series the rest of the way, no matter what.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. Nuggets and Blazers are on my list too, and it's a scoring parade. And the reason I say that is every time you look at these two teams, every time they met up with each other, the Nuggets have scored 105 points or more in every single meeting against the Portland Trailblazers. And most teams, they can't even drop 100 in some nights. So for them, in every single meeting that they had, drop 105 points or more, it's just absolutely insane. A couple of those games without Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, Michael Porter Jr. doing their thing. I'm loving this series. And the way that Aaron Gordon, even though Dame Lillard still dropped, I think he dropped like 45, I
Yeah,
think.
he had his way.
He had his way, but like I want to say like the second quarter, maybe like the second quarter or third quarter, Aaron Gordon was playing really good defense on Damian Lillard and was making him miss a lot of shots. And the Nuggets were fueling offensively. So those are two offensive juggernauts. And I'm excited to see both of them battle out. And I think it's going to 7-2. I really do, because it's just going to be a great offensive series. And every single game from here on out, I think it's going to come down to the wire. And those key defensive plays are going to be during that time. My other two games that I have is the Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks. I just love the playoff atmosphere Madison Square Garden is giving off. Besides the fact,
orange and blue skies,
orange and blue skies, baby, orange and blue skies.
Yeah.
Even though it's disrespectful that they spit at Trae Young, that shouldn't be allowed or anything. But other than that, the playoff atmosphere has been awesome. So great. It reminds me back in the 90s, back in the mid 90s, when the Knicks met up with the Pacers, and the Pacers, they had a heated rivalry going back and forth. And Reggie Miller, the ultimate choke signal, walking across, like it just gives me those vibes. And Trae Young is just enjoying this public enemy #1 role. It's just going to be a great series. And the Knicks, what they have to start doing is they got to start relying. They got to have their starters step up, because their starters, they're getting outscored by their bench. In game 2, their bench had 55 points. Starters had 41. In game 1, their starters had game 1, sorry. Their bench had 64 points. And then game 2, their bench had 55 points. And then the starters in game 1 had 41. And in game 2, they had 46. So those starters got to step up for the Knicks. And that's how they're going to win these games. I can't wait till they go down to the A and battle it out.
Yep, that's, man. And I love watching it. I mean, you got a bunch of guys who I never thought I'd see in the playoffs again. Taj Gibson, Tibbs. I never thought I'd see Tibbs coach a playoff team again after what happened in Minnesota. So I mean, the Knicks they're kind of like the Heat. They just got a bunch of dogs on that team. No one would have expected them to be a playoff team, and kind of same with the Hawks. I don't think anyone was really picking them to be the 5 seed. So that's a gritty series. Like it's old school. It's fun to watch. And when they go down to Atlanta, hopefully there's some Stephen A. Smith. He puts it on everything that there's a bunch of Knicks fans in the A. So we're gonna see how that turns out.
We're gonna find out.
Yeah, gonna find out.
We're gonna find out. Hopefully they have jam-packed stadiums too down in the A. So then I can see what Atlanta got, because right now MSG probably the best playoff atmosphere that you can play in if you're the Knicks.
Yeah,
like that's just whoo. Lakers and Suns. Like I said, playoff atmosphere, especially from game 2, made me feel like Phoenix and the Bulls back in the early 90s when they had Charles Barkley going up against MJ, Scotty, Horace, had that playoff atmosphere. And it brings a whole new narrative, because CP3 might not play. So some of them's going to have to step up a bit, and some of them being Devin Booker, because the Suns need more scores than just Devin Booker, because in game 1, when they won, 4 players scored over double digits. In game 2, only 3 scores scored in double digits. So I think that's another intriguing series to watch, because you have the reigning NBA champions versus the Phoenix Suns, who's a fairly young team, but giving the Lakers a low-key run for their money.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about experience versus the young guys, and the young guys are putting up a fight. I mean, Cam, don't like the guy, but Cam Payne, he balled. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Cam Payne, but he is not saying he's not a good player. I just don't like how he plays. But he's playing really well, and I think he's a good replacement for CP3 if Chris can't go the rest of the way. So it should be interesting. It's going to be youth versus old age.
And one thing the Suns had to do, since we're talking about the subject, the Lakers were beating them with screens, especially towards the end of the game, where I think it was Andre Drummond. It was either Andre Drummond or Anthony Davis. I believe it was Andre Drummond. Set a screen on Jay Crowder, completely took Jay Crowder out the play, and LeBron hit the dagger. Because that was
AD.
Was that
AD said, yeah, AD said that.
So with that, they can't have those open shots with LeBron, because I know like LeBron hasn't always been a great three-point shooter, but in those times, like LeBron's gonna hit those shots. So you can't leave him open. You got to contain Anthony Davis, and you just got to contain that whole Lakers team, as hard as that sounds. But that's what the Phoenix Suns ultimately have to do in order to win this series. I think it's going to 7. I really do. I really think it's going to 7.
It's tonight. The LeBron and the boys are gonna take the life out of the Suns, and they're gonna give up tonight in Game 3 in Staples. I'm telling you that they'll put up a fight in 4 and 5, but LeBron and the boys tonight are gonna just rip their hearts out.
I will say, the first half, the Lakers are going to have a field day. Reason I say that, this is their first game at the Staples Center with the Lakers. I want to say since 2013, 2012, since the Kobe Bryant, Paul Gasol era. So it's been a long time, and fans are coming in, swarming in a little bit more and more each and every game. So don't be surprised if you see the Lakers going crazy for their home crowd, because that's the first time that they're hosting a playoff game. So Phoenix got to watch out for that too if CP3 is not playing. And we'll see how CP3's effect comes from the bench if he doesn't play, because CP3 is a big part towards that team. But let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the most surprising team and player in the NBA playoffs so far.
All right. The most surprising team is the Washington Wizards. Yeah, I see that look on your face. The reason why is because the Washington Wizards, who do they have? Who's wearing number 4 on the Washington Wizards?
Mr. Russell Westbrook?
Mr. Russell Westbrook, correct. That dude, he is a monster. He's a dog. But the Wizards are putting up 0 fight. Come on now. Russell Westbrook, I'm not expecting him to be Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or even LeBron putting up a fight against the 1 seed, or like winning games against the 1 seed, but they're getting blown off the floor. I mean, he looks like he wants to be there, but I would expect him to put some of that energy into his teammates, and he's not doing it. So I think they're surprising in the way that they're just looks like they're not trying out there. Which brings me to say that the most surprising team in a good way is the Philadelphia 76ers, because a lot of people thought that the Wizards were going to steal a game or two, and it doesn't look like the Wizards are even going to get within 20. So, yeah, I think the most surprising teams are the Wizards and the Sixers.
Honestly, I agree with you with the 76ers. And I kind of agree with you with the Washington Wizards. I feel like the controversial call with Westbrook down the wire in Game 1, where I don't think his foot was out of bounds.
Oh, it wasn't. No, for sure wasn't.
That play, one, gave all the momentum to Philadelphia, and it kind of just like Washington Wizards was a balloon. Like imagine like you're like a little 5-year-old kid, like you have like a big balloon, and then you just want to pop it just to get a little giggle. That's dumb. That the Washington Wizards was that balloon. As soon as that balloon was popped, we don't know where the Washington Wizards went. And I thought the Wizards were going to steal at least a game in Philadelphia, but my God, like they're getting rolled over. So I would agree that the Wizards are surprising, and Russell Westbrook is not playing like he's not playing bad, but he could be playing better. And it looks like his energy is not all the way there. But when they get to Washington, though, I think things are going to change. So look out for the Wizards. 76ers, I agree, because I didn't think the 76ers were going to be this good of a like playoff team so far.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to like give up, like say, or give up a game and not look as good as they're looking right now. But they've been proving
good.
me wrong. They've been proving me wrong.
Yeah. They've experienced losing in the playoffs. Joel knows what it's like, and he doesn't want to feel that again. So, yeah, they're looking pretty good.
Exactly. But for me, the most surprising team is the Memphis Grizzlies. The Memphis Grizzlies. Reason I say this, because they've been battling through the path of elimination. Beat the San Antonio Spurs in a one-game elimination. They're reminding me of UCLA right now. They really are.
Yeah,
they're not in like the championship like conversation yet, but they're reminding me of UCLA. Everyone's picking them to get knocked down, and they just come back up and be the last team standing in the duel, in the battle royale. They beat San Antonio. Then they beat Golden State. Golden State was a very hot team, took one against Utah, and now they're going back to Memphis in a 1-1 series to the 1 seed Utah Jazz. Did you expect that? I don't think you expect that, but did you expect that?
I mean, I didn't. I did say though. I said if the Grizzlies were to beat the Warriors, this series would go to 6. But I didn't expect them to win Game 1, and I didn't expect Ja Morant to play the way that he did in Game 2, because that boy was balling 47. I thought he was getting Jordan's record. If that game went to OT, I think we would have a new playoff single game record, because he was cooking, and unfortunately they just couldn't get it done. Jazz got a lot of questionable foul calls.
Yeah,
Rudy Gobert falling down, Casper the Ghost knocking him down, but yeah, I mean, I was really mad watching that game because I was Grizzlies all the way. And then Donovan Mitchell came in and did what he needed to do. He took a charge and made a nice little layup, and he made sure to tell the fans this is what he effing does. So I think it's going 6. I think the Grizzlies might be able to win both in Memphis. I'm going to say that they're going to win one for sure, and then hopefully they win them both, because then we got a 3-1 series over the 8 seed or over the 1 seed. So that would be interesting. But I think this one's going to go to 6.
I think Memphis, the reason why Utah won, one of the biggest reasons is they got 2 of their key players in foul trouble. They got Dylan Brooks in foul trouble very fast, and they got Jonas Valanciunas. And Jonas Valanciunas, it's that height in the paint. So that's that guy that can size up with Rudy Gobert. And then once he's out, then you got to play small ball. And against a team developed like the Utah Jazz, and that has a lot of player chemistry, they're gonna destroy that paint so fast and so efficient that it just takes you out the game. So it leaves you with that one superstar, Ja Morant, and it's all up to Ja Morant. So I think if they don't get into that much foul trouble and Dylan Brooks is able to do what he can do, the Grizzlies can really win the series. No one said it so far. I think the Grizzlies can win the series. I really do.
I think they can too. Like you said, it comes down to guys like Valanciunas and Dylan Brooks. Doesn't really come down to Ja Morant so much, because we know what Ja's going to do. He's going to be a bucket, shoot fairly efficiently. Maybe not from 3, but from inside the arc. I mean, he's gonna play well. He's gonna give you a lot of heart. It just comes down to the other guys. And so, yeah, they got a chance.
And speaking of my man Dylan Brooks, that's my most surprising playoff player so far. Dylan Brooks against the Spurs, 24, 7 and 3. Didn't play so well against the Warriors, but when he was guarding Steph, he he only held Steph to 5 points. Everyone else held them to double digits. That really stood out. Game 1, 31-7 against the Jazz. 23 against the Jazz. It's not terrible, but he still played good. It was just he was in foul trouble. If he wasn't, I think he would have. He could have locked down Donovan Mitchell. If he was able, he was able to lock down DeMar DeRozan, Steph Curry when he was on him, and he was giving Donovan Mitchell a little run for his money a little bit. And then Donovan was like, nah, I need Dylan off, so let me get him in foul trouble real quick. Outstanding defense. That's my most surprising player. What is your most surprising player in this playoffs and team? Or no, you already said player.
Yeah. So most surprising player. This was tough for me. I kind of made it. I made my own little ballot here. So I had my top 3 finishers. Coming in third place, we have Derrick Rose. That was averaging 22 points per game, looking like vintage D Rose. And he's getting it done for the Knicks. Hopefully he continues it when they go back to the A. And I think he's going to. I don't think when he's in the game, Trae Young is too little to guard him, not quick enough. D Rose is explosive, but he comes in third for my most surprising player. Number 2 is your man, Dylan Brooks. He is averaging 27 points per game on 61% shooting. Tell me someone who is playing better than that. 27 on 61% shooting. Let me tell you. Tim Hardaway Jr. is scoring 25 points per game on 62% shooting, and he is just torching. I mean, come on. You find me someone playing like Tim Hardaway Jr. that we didn't expect. This guy got traded for a bucket of quarters. I mean, are you kidding me? No one expected Tim Hardaway Jr. to be an impact on a championship caliber team. And if the Mavericks beat the Clippers, Tim Hardaway Jr. keeps playing this way. Don't be surprised if he's averaging 20 something in the NBA Finals, because if he's playing this way, the Mavericks are very hard to beat. And the reason I have him, he's scoring 2 less points on 1% better shooting than Dylan Brooks is. The reason I have him more surprised than Dylan Brooks is because Luka Doncic has scored 5 points in both fourth quarters. 5 points. You know who's been doing the scoring in the fourth quarter? It's that boy, Tim Hardaway Jr. Tim's a closer, so he's the most surprising player so far of the NBA playoffs.
Honestly, Tim Hardaway's kind of blowing me away too. You got me there. You got me there, Mr. Wood. Got me there. And the reason why he's blowing me away the reason why the Mavericks are blowing me away, I'm going to throw Dallas in this mix because no one expected KP to be able to play right now. We thought KP was going to be on the bench. So that's another thing. Having KP there, that's always going to put you in games. And not having having more players than just Luka Doncic and KP scoring the rock, that's a hard team to beat. Yeah, because they're well coached. I think Mark Cuban's got something to do with the coaching over there too. The way that his influence in Dallas is, and Dirk giving Luka like pointers and tips and all that. I suspected the Mavericks to at least take one game in the series of split, but for them to be up 2-0 right now, for me, I'm gonna be honest, that is shocking.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Them stealing 1, I think we both expected. I think you picked them in 7, I believe. You picked the Mavs in 7?
Yeah, I think so.
And I think I picked them in 6. But, I mean, I didn't honestly just said that because I'm not too high in the Clippers. But, man, this talk about a team that your stars aren't getting it done. Luka is taking the first 3 quarters. No one has to worry about the first 3 quarters. When it comes to the fourth quarter, everyone else is balling. The Clippers are double teaming Luka. He's finding the open guys. And the Mavs are looking good, and they're going back to Dallas where, speaking of Dirk Nowitzki, did you see they had him in like the 7th row? He had horrible seats. There was nobody at the games, and he had horrible seats. I'm disappointed in the Clippers for that. But yeah, the Mavericks are looking good, and a big part of that is Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yeah, now I might have to email the Clippers, ask them why they put Dirk so up high. It's not like none of them besides Kawhi and Tyronn Lue And Rajon Rondo won a championship before. Like Dirk won a championship too. Have him courtside. Have him enjoy the game. Hell, have him coach because obviously he can do a job coaching. Clippers might need him after this season. Like, got me wild up, man. Got me wild up. So, speaking of the Clippers, what player has to carry the load the most for their team to win? I'm gonna start it off. We've been talking about the Clippers. We're gonna keep talking about the Los Angeles Clippers because Kawhi Leonard is the man that has to carry the most load for that Los Angeles Clippers team. And here's the reason why. We call him the Claw. Why we call him the Claw? That's what it's like why we call Gary Payton the Glove. They're both amazing on defense. I think Kawhi's won Defensive Player of the Year either twice or three times, probably more twice. Won Defensive Player of the Year twice. He's got to show that he was once Defensive Player of the Year, not once, but twice, because he's not really showing that now. Scoring, he was doing a lot of that in game two. He was. But with the Clippers, and like we've been harping about, Paul George and no one else hasn't been coming through with him. So it's just like Kawhi can score all these points, but at the end of the day, if you have four demons on the other side that are trading buckets with you, those points are not going to matter at the end of the day. So Kawhi's got to get his team together for him and the Clippers to win. Also, they got to contain Luka Doncic. I think last year in the playoffs, what they did was they had Kawhi guard Luka. I don't know if they're doing that now, but Kawhi needs to guard Luka. I think that's going to solve their problems with Luka because the last two games, Luka in game one had 39, 7 and 7, and then game two had 31, 11 and 10. So they just got to stop that, or Kawhi's got to stop that. They got to contain the big three, and the Dallas Mavericks stars are stealing the show too from Kawhi. So if the Clippers want to win, Kawhi, I hope you're listening to this because it might be too late if you don't step up. That's all I'm saying. Then my next player is Jimmy Butler. Like I've been saying, he's the heart and soul of that team. And if he's not functioning, the Miami Heat's not going to function. And when the Miami Heat are not functioning, that means Milwaukee's going to shoot. And they're going to shoot at an efficient rate because they're, I think, either the second or the first team in the NBA in efficient shooting. And they're one of the best three-point shooting teams in the NBA. So if Miami's not clicking, Milwaukee is straight shooting the rock at such an efficient rate. So Jimmy Butler and Kawhi are my players for that category.
All right. Well, you're wrong. And let me tell you why. The reason why is we saw Kawhi carry. We saw Kawhi carrying what it resulted in. It resulted in an L. If anyone needs to carry on the Clippers team, it is Paul George. I mean, and that man played well. He played well, but you know what you're getting from Kawhi. You don't know what you're getting from Paul George. So if anyone on the Clippers needs to carry, it would be PG. Jimmy Butler, I can see he's got to do something. So you're not completely wrong with that one. But Kawhi, get that out of here. My two players, I went away from Nikola Jokic. He has nobody on his team.
Yeah.
Whatever. Went away from Luka. I mean, we talked about Tim Hardaway. He's a baller.
Yeah.
The two players that need to carry the most for their teams to win are Ice Tray and
Ice
the Brody.
Tray the gang? Ooh,
Ice Tray
Migos wrote a song about him. Ice Tray the gang? Okay, keep going. Talk to me about Ice Tray, Mike. Talk to me about Ice Tray.
Trae Young. I mean, we saw he gave the MSG. We talked about it, the playoff atmosphere. He gave him a little shush. He completely shut down all the noise in MSG. He carried the Atlanta Hawks. And then we saw them lose a game, and that was because he turned it over too much and he wasn't very productive. So if Trae Young plays like he did in game one, where he carries the team, the Knicks are going to have trouble. And then Russell Westbrook, I said this last week. If that man, I gave specific statistics, if you remember, 42% 42% shooting, and under 4.5 turnovers a game. 4.5 turnovers. You're like, oh, wow, that's a lot. Anyone can average under 4.5. Russell Westbrook apparently can't because he's averaging 5 turnovers a game on 30% shooting. He shot 20% whatever day that was. Yes, was that yesterday? All I know is he is playing horrible. So Russell Westbrook, man. Bradley Beal. See, I've been saying this with a lot of guys. You know what you're getting from Bradley Beal. You are getting 30 points and an unstoppable bucket. But Russell Westbrook, at this point, you're getting an inefficient guy who can't shoot. I don't know what you're a 6'4" guy who can jump really high but can't shoot at this point, as far as I'm concerned, in the playoffs. So Russell Westbrook has got to carry his load, if not the whole team's load, in order for the Wizards to even have a chance at stealing one game at this point, because right now it's a sweep for the Sixers unless Russell Westbrook steps up. And Trae Young, the other player that needs to carry the most, if he does not play like he did in game 1, it's orange and blue skies into round 2.
I think the Knicks can beat the Nets. I'm gonna put that out there. That's for next week.
Hey,
I think the Knicks can beat the Nets.
We'll see.
Stephen A. should be proud. If he ever heard me say that statement, and you, I think the Knicks can beat the Nets. We'll talk about that next week. But Trae Young, I can agree with you on Trae Young, because when they take Trae Young out the game, it's their whole energy just sinks. It's like watching. You remember like middle school where you're playing like a team like Scullin or Fisher, and everyone knows that you're gonna blow them out. So like not like no one's gonna show up to the games, and it's just like you and the team. And then like Fisher, and then once you blow them out, it's all quiet. But like you guys get like wild up like after the game. It's kind of like that with Trae Young and Atlanta Hawks. It's just the energy just goes down, just sinks. And when Trae Young's in the game, the energy is through the roof. It's like the 12th man Seahawks stadium when Trae Young's on the court. And for him to keep this public enemy number one being that evil villain that shows up in that Scooby-Doo episode, even though we know it's Trae Young. Like, we don't have to unmask and be like, oh my God, Bogdanovich, how could you? Like, no, we know it's Trae Young. So Trae Young's got to show up for the Atlanta Hawks for them to win. So I agree with you on that. And then what I was going to say is Russell Westbrook reminds you of Ben Simmons. He can do everything besides shoot the ball. So yeah. He needs to start shooting the ball at an efficient rate, because we know Davis Bertans can shoot. We know Raul Neto can shoot. We know Ish Smith can shoot. Bradley Beal. I didn't name Russell Westbrook. So he needs to start. Pandemic Pete. Stop it. Pandemic Pete. We don't know what we're going to get from Pandemic Pete. That's why his name is Pandemic.
That's what I'm saying. You don't know what you're going to get. You know what you're getting with Kawhi.
That's a good thing, and that's a bad thing. And the reason why it's a bad thing is because he can give you 60 one night and then give you 2 points, 5 fouls, with 45 minutes the next night. Kawhi, at least you know what Kawhi is going to give you on a daily basis, so you can give all the load to Kawhi. Paul George might come in one day with a dog and go, yo, dog, like a literal dog, and be like, yo, play 1, and then he might bring a shark and tell him to go play 5. We don't know what we're expecting from Pandemic Pete. So stop it with all that. No.
Hey, no. If the Clippers come back to win that series, it's going to be because of Paul George. Mark my words on that. Mark my words.
If they come back and win, and Paul George is the man of that series, I'll buy you food. Whatever restaurant, Cane's, Chipotle, I'll buy you food. But when Paul George doesn't show up and Kawhi Leonard shows up, I want my Chipotle nice and more. That's all I'm saying. All
right. Well, that's a deal.
That's all I'm saying. Pandemic P, man. Jeez, it's got me. I'm flabbergasted. I'm flabbergasted. Well, crazy kids, crazy adults, sharks, bears, whoever's listening to 1497 podcast. Thank you for listening to 1497 podcast. We love y'all. Give us a nice subscribe on Apple Podcasts, basically all podcasting platforms. Follow us on Instagram at 1497 Podcast. Follow us on TikTok at 1497 Podcast. Public enemy #1, Trae Young. Watch him and the Knicks, because that's going to be crazy. Watch out for Pandemic P, because apparently he's going to do something. He's going to do something.
He will. Y'all see.
So thank you for tuning in. As always, trust the process. LeBron and Mike's got to watch his Lakers. I got to watch the Suns. I gotta do some stuff before next week's episode. It's a whole week. Give us a break. Relax. Jeez. But tell your friends, tell your colleagues, tell your parents, tell your coaches, tell your high school, tell the cafeteria lady, people in the cafeteria. I don't know. Tell everyone about 1497 Podcast. Trust the process. We out of here. Mike, you got anything else to say?
Lakers in 5.
Pandemic Pete. Watch out for sharks, bears, cats, lions. If he brings an animal, I warned y'all. Peace.